make a lot of pizza, so I came up with a way to always have dough ready. This starts with 3 cups or 400 grams of flour. I am using King Arthur AP flour. It's 11.7% protein. It's as close to bread flour as you can get without actually being bread flour. I like it. It works for me. Can you use AP flour? Sure. Can you use bread flour? Of course you can. To this, I'm going to add 1 1/8 cups or 260 grams of water. Now, some people have asked what kind of water, what kind of temperature. This is pretty much like room temperature. It's just not, it's not hot, it's not cold. It's like tepid would be the proper term. And it is filtered water, but not RO water. Our filter on our house takes out chlorine and sediment. So this is non-chlorinated water. You want to use non-chlorinated water because chlorine will hurt the yeast. To that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons or about 20 grams of a really good quality, well, good enough quality, extra virgin olive oil. This to me adds a little bit of flavor and it does soften the dough just a little bit. I'm tearing out the scale in between, so it always reads 0. That's why I like to work by weight. It's really easy. I can just throw everything all into one container. Next is about 1.5 teaspoons or 8 grams of salt. Now, do not use iodized salt for this. The iodine will actually harm the yeast and might stop it from fermenting properly. And it could add a weird flavor sometimes too, like a metallic taste. This is kosher salt. If you're using something more like a finely granulated salt, you might need a little bit less than 1.5 teaspoons. If you're using a really coarse sea salt, you might need a little bit more because it's going to measure out a little bit different. But it's 8 grams either way. Then I'm going to use about 1 1/3 teaspoons of yeast, which comes to about 3 to 4 grams. It's hard to really measure this stuff accurately. This is just Fleischmann's active dry yeast. Nothing fancy. You can use fresh yeast if you really want to. I don't think it makes all that much difference in this particular recipe, so I just do this. Okay, that's all of our ingredients. And now we mix. All I am doing is mixing this. This is essentially a no-knead method of making pizza dough. I don't do a lot of kneaded doughs. This is a relatively high hydration at like 65%. It'll be a little bit higher than that because of the way that I do the stretch and fold. Yes, this is the stretch and fold method, which means about every 45 minutes you have to do like 30 seconds of work for a couple hours. And then it's done and you have pizza dough for the week or, a couple of weeks if you wanted to. What you want to do in this phase is just get all the dry stuff off the bottom. Make sure it's all incorporated together. It will start to feel like it's too dry. Resist the urge to add more water. Adding more water changes the recipe significantly so, and it might not work out the way we want it to. If you really get into doubt and you're not sure, use your hands. Your hands will tell you, oh yeah, it's sticky. There's plenty in here. I don't need to add more water. And then you just mix it around until it all gets incorporated. Once your dough is thoroughly mixed, just kind of scrape the excess off your hands because, that's dough. Put on a lid. See you in 45 minutes. All right, so it's been 45 minutes and we're going to do what I call stretch and folds. You've probably heard of this before. I didn't invent the term or the methodology, but what it does is it lets you fold the dough in a grid pattern, thereby stretching those gluten strands in a very specific mesh pattern, making for a much stronger end result. So let's get started. It's actually a really, really simple process. You need a glass of water, whatever water. You just want to wet your hand. Now you want to reach into the bin and you want to get your hand under one side, grab it, pull up till you feel some resistance and drop it down. Now, as you can see, this dough looks pretty bad. It's pretty scraggly looking. Turn it 90 degrees, do it again. I'm just giving it a little shake as I go, just to stretch it that little bit more. Turn another 90 degrees. I'm wetting my hand in between each time. Remember earlier I said 65% hydration plus a little more? Yeah, that's where that little more comes from. And I'm just going to kind of push it down. All these little bits and pieces on the side, I am picking them up and sticking them on because, it's part of my dough. Another 90-degree turn, another dip in the water. I'm just going to give this a little bit of a stretch. Now, if you look at this part right here, see how much smoother that is already than what we saw in the very beginning over here. There's all these little bits and stuff stuck to it. Don't worry about any of that. It'll all come out as it starts to do its thing. Now, what do we do at this point? Put the lid on, come back in 45 minutes. Okay, so 45 minutes have gone by. Let's take the lid off and have a look. It looks a little bit more jiggly, a lot more smooth than before. So we're just going to do another stretch and fold. Really simple. Wet my hand, Get it under the corner here. I want to get as much as I can out of that corner. Lift, flap it around a little bit, drop it on top. It's feeling a lot smoother, and that's normal. It's supposed to. You want it to. I'm not really feeling much fermentation yet as far as like bubbles inside, but that's okay. It'll come. A little bit, actually. I just felt some bubbles there. I can feel that the structure is starting to form better. It lifted off the bottom. That usually means that it can support its own weight. So there's more, see, there's some structure there. It's got a little bit of strength. That's good. For the second go round, that's actually pretty nice. It's looking a whole lot smoother already, and we'll give this 45 more minutes and come back. All right, so 45 minutes is gone. Let's take the lid off and have a look. Well, it has puffed up. That is a good sign. It's also looking pretty smooth. So let me wet my hand, get under that side, stretch, lift till resistance, fold on top. And you're already seeing it's much, much smoother. This is actually really nice now. And this is what happens. You see the transformation. This is why, you know, people say, oh, I use my bread maker and it makes great bread. Well, it might make great bread, but this was awesome bread. So awesome beats great, in my opinion. And if you can make awesome, why settle for great? Again, 90-degree turn. Go right to the end. Grab that. See how it lifts out? It can suspend its own weight now. That means it's got some strength, some structure, some elasticity to it. Yeah, this is actually looking really, really nice. I think one more stretch and fold and we'll be good to go. I'm just testing it. I'm playing with it right now, I'll just admit. But I'm just testing the dough a little bit to see its elasticity, see its stretchiness. And it's really, really nice. Also notice, almost nothing on my hands. That's a sign that this dough is really, really close to being done. So let's see in 45 more minutes. Okay, so another 45 minutes has gone by. Let's take off the lid and have a look. It's getting very jiggly. That's usually a really good sign. It's also looking really nice and smooth, and it's puffed up quite a bit. So we know that fermentation is happening. The bread is puffing, as people like to say. I'm just going to get under there with a wet hand, pull it again, and fold it over. Turn 90 degrees. Lift it up, stretch till I feel some resistance. Oh, there we go. Some bubbles popping and everything. Flip it over. 90 degrees, same thing. Oh, see, it lifted off. That means we have good, strong structure. Look at that. It's just holding on. And I can feel bubbles breaking in my hand. So that means we already have fermentation happening, which is wonderful. Last one, just like that. Give it a good shake this time. Slap it around a little bit. It likes it. Fold it over. And that, I think, is going to be our final stretch and fold. That has good structure, so we'll see you in about 30 minutes. I want to let this rest some. Okay, so our dough is rested for about another 30 minutes or so. It is time to dump it out, to turn it out, as they say, and to start measuring it out for distribution. So I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on my bench here. Bench. It's a cutting board, to be honest. Spread that out a bit. Now, the reason for this is it's just non-stick protection. That's really all it is. Let me get the lid off of here. And our dough is nice and airy at this point. So I don't want to lose too much air. I'm going to just literally let it fall out onto that. And I just want to instantly start moving some flour around it and under it so that it doesn't stick to this board. All right. See, and you can see, I can just get my fingers under it and I can move it around, I can manipulate it. At this point, if you wanted to make one huge pizza, you totally can, okay? But what I plan to do is, first, I am actually going to flip this over and get it coated on both sides, spread it out just a little bit. I'm going to break this into 4, because it makes 4, you know, decent 10 to 12 inch size pizzas, and 3 of them are going to go in the fridge. 1 of them is going to be for tonight. So I just want to make sure this isn't sticking anywhere. And then I'm going to try to cut this into 4 equal pieces. I never do a really good job of that, but thankfully it's not super critical to get them exactly right. I could totally measure it and all that. Each one, if I did measure it, would be about 175 grams or like 6¼ ounces by weight. But I am just going to eyeball this because it's just not that critical. And over here, means one day we get a little bit bigger pizza. That's all. Now, what I want to do, though, before I put these away, is make them into rough balls. So what I'm going to do is just flatten it out slightly, grab a corner, stretch it out a little, pull it to the middle, and press down. Turn 90 degrees, same thing. And just keep doing that over and over until I make a nice taut little ball. And then just kind of firm it up on the bench a little bit here. This isn't absolutely critical. I just like to do it just to, you know, help it along a little. It makes me feel better, I think. It's nice to have nice smooth things that you set into your fridge rather than, you know, something that looks all nasty and gnarly. So I'm going to take those, and I have these nice glass bowls that I like to put these in, and that's it. Now, if you're wondering what happens when you put it in the fridge, we are going to be doing a video on this, on leaving things to proof for long periods of time in the fridge. You can use this dough right away, and it'll be perfectly fine. In a couple of days, it'll have a little bit better flavor, and after about a week, it's going to have even more flavor, almost like a sourdough. Some people really, really like that for pizza. I think it's a little bit different. We just yesterday, or I think it was a couple days ago, had a pizza that was 7 days in the fridge, just like this. It was great. The dough was easy to work with, and it tasted awesome. It was fantastic. The nice thing about this is you can go to the store and buy pizza dough, but if you can make it yourself like this, why? You can always double this recipe if you need more. You can triple it, you can, you know, as much as you want. Just, I wouldn't let them go more than, say, 10 days in the fridge. Beyond that, you might be asking for a little bit of trouble, and honestly, I think the yeast would probably have used up all the starches and sugars in that dough. So it probably wouldn't be very good to cook with at that point. But as you can see, just plop all three of them in there like that. Put the lids on. I'll put the lids on later. And then I have another one over here that I'm just going to set aside and use that tonight. You can see the dough really isn't very sticky. It just kind of forms nicely. Lovely. Drop that into here. That's the basic gist of how to make pizza dough. Like I said, you can go to the store and buy it yourself, but this was pretty easy. Really didn't take that much time. On a day that you're already home, give it a turn every couple hours. You can stretch that process out. You don't have to do it every 45 minutes. You can do it every couple hours if you want to. It won't change things that much because these are all going to end up in the fridge anyway. So make your own pizza dough. Super easy. Thanks for watching, guys, and have a great day.